Your number's too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend.
Hey, Julie Davis here from Agent Dynamics, and I have this absolutely amazing guest with me today. Welcome, Hannah Gill.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So we're heading to my hometown of Canberra this week, and many of you will have known Hannah because you've been around the traps for, over 13 years now, and you've brought a lot of your experience to our industry through different events. And I know that you've written for Elite Agent, and you've been involved in Transform program. So you're really out there sharing your wisdom with others, which is really great. And recently, Hannah, you launched your own business, Property Collective, and so you head up the property management side of that. And when did that launch?
About a year ago, a year and a week
you
ago.
just had your anniversary.
Yeah, time flies.
It absolutely does. And I guess probably just a major achievement is that that you were recognised as the REIA Australia-wide Operational Leader of the Year in 2020. Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And ACT Telstra Businesswoman of the Year in medium to large business in 2020. That was a big year for you.
Yeah, it was a really exciting year. I mean, both awards I was very, very humbled and very thrilled to receive. It was off the back of a few big years in work, so it was really nice to have that recognition.
Yeah, and absolutely well deserved, right? So it's in the award states, it's not that it's a very competitive space, particularly when you're talking about Telstra Businesswoman of the Year. That's massive. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today and sharing a little bit of your wisdom and your journey. So I guess probably we normally sort of get off track, but what I normally like to ask, and what people are always really interested in, what did you do prior to property management, and what brought you into the industry, Hannah?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I was early 20s when I started in property management. And at the time I had been working a number of different jobs. So I'd been working in hospitality and retail and some office work. And it was around Christmas time and I really needed a job. And at the time we looked in the paper. So I was looking in the paper and I'm a very visual person. So I saw a logo that I liked and it was for an agency in Canberra. And I thought, oh, property management, I don't know what that is, but that sounds like something I could do. And that's how I got into the industry. Right. I just was looking for something different.
And did you have any expectations? Did you have any idea of what property management was going to be like?
To be honest, not really. And I think it's really interesting, even in that 13 years, how much the industry has evolved. I mean, my first week in property management looks remarkably different, I would expect, to anyone's first week now in the industry. But I think at the time I was probably a bit shell-shocked. But I kind of didn't know what I got myself into. But I think that challenge in a way was almost necessary because it kind of got me out of this funk of kind of floating about and not having real direction in my life. So yeah, it was probably the right time for that.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide that you were a career property manager?
Well, that's probably something I wish I'd known earlier when I started. So when I started the industry, it was very much I needed a job, needed to pay the bills. And I think probably a couple of years in, probably about 2 years in, I kind of thought, gosh, there is so much opportunity in this industry and there's so many amazing people to learn from and to grow with and collaborate with. And I just really started to get interested in how can I give back? Like I was still very junior, very much so in my property management role, but I was in my office, I was like, how can I give back? When I talk to clients or tenants or owners, I'd be like, how can I add value? And I just started to shift my mindset. And that very quickly meant other opportunities opened up. But I kind of wish I knew that sooner because I wasted probably 2 or 3 years just kind of fluffing about doing a job.
Yeah. So if you were to give any advice to someone who is just like they're hanging out doing a job and that they're really thinking, I really want to have more out of their career, obviously it's a mind shift.
Yeah.
But what would your advice be to them? Number one, I'm assuming they're going to be in an environment where they're happy, they want to stay. And they want to look at, well, how can I actually develop this and how can I step it up? What would be the from your experience?
It's a really good question. I think there's probably a few elements to that. I think as a professional in any industry, but particularly the property industry, consistency is key. So the way we carry ourselves, the way we behave professionally, whether it's in person, whether it's on social media, whether it's Friday night at the pub, we really looking at who you are as a person and going, I'm my own brand. And everything I do as a person, whether it's in work hours or out of work hours, reflects what I stand for and who I want to be. And so I think when you're starting out, if you're making the decision to really make it a career, being really conscious of that who you are in the workplace and who you are out of the workplace should align for starters.
Yes.
And secondly, consistent performance, consistent contribution to the team that you work in, delivering for your clients and looking for opportunities, because in our industry, they're everywhere. And if you don't look, you'll miss them. So I think being really conscious of and aware of and open to those opportunities.
Yes, and I think that as an industry, the real estate industry, I think that it would be great to see more of a career path, more of a career option for those coming out of school or university. Could think that they can really make a career rather it being a in-between job or it just happened to be a job there. So I think that's something that is really key in our industry to attract really good people.
Couldn't agree more.
Because sadly, we have, particularly in property management, and I was just discussing this yesterday, is our turnover in the real estate industry is second only to hospitality. And it's not really something to be proud of. And I think that when people enter the industry, it's really important for them to do their due diligence and to see it. I'm sure that you've seen, even looking from the outside, there are some companies that have got a great culture to attract people. There's also some companies that look great on the outside but have a terrible problem culturally inside, where they've got a rather high turnover of team. What if somebody was looking to shift potentially in a career, they haven't found their happy home, or they're thinking about coming in, what do you think, or what would be your advice of the key things that they would need to look at in terms of their homework due diligence before embarking on that career move or that entry into the industry?
Yeah, really good question. I think I'd encourage people who are looking to get into the industry or even changing businesses they work in, just to be really thorough and very clear in what they're trying to achieve. I love the quote, "The grass is greener where you water it." And I think there's a real tendency in our industry for people to jump around because there's always something better. There's something better at the next place, whether it's money or culture or incentives. But I think having a really clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it, and then understanding, am I moving because there's a shiny new opportunity that might not stack up? As you said, you get in there and the culture's terrible, or there's no systems or processes, or am I moving because it's genuinely the right move at this point in my career? And I think the best way to do that is obviously ask lots of people, talk to people within the team, not just the person recruiting you, but say, can I reach out to some of your property managers? Can I reach out to the people who are on the tools at the coalface and just get their feedback? And I think that's really telling, because if a property manager is happy in a workplace, that's probably a pretty good workplace, because so many are not.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question, because you've got your team and built your team, and you're very long-standing and successful in the industry. As a leader, what do you feel? So this is for leaders that might be listening to this, that have got a property management business and thinking, how can I lead better? What do you think are the fundamentals, say maybe the top three things that they need to do for their team?
That's a big question. I mean, I think leadership probably comes back to a point I already made earlier, and it's about consistency. I think as leaders, if we can be consistent to our people, we're already, so far ahead of the game. And by being consistent, I mean doing the little things right all the time. So when you walk in the morning, saying hello to everyone. When you leave in the afternoon, saying goodbye to everyone. Honouring your one-on-one meetings, really being present when you are in a meeting with a team member, not looking at your phone and looking, at your emails, just genuinely being consistent and being available and present to them. I think that's massive because, as leaders, we all know we're juggling 1,000 different things. But to that person, if we give them our full attention, the respect and the trust that builds over time is invaluable. And I think as leaders, so often, and particularly in an industry that's predominantly or has traditionally been male dominated, I think there's real value in being authentic and being vulnerable as a leader.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think so often we get taught that, we look at a stereotypical male kind of leadership role and it's very sort of unflappable and strong. And I just think there's real merit, particularly with the generations coming through into the workplace, that we're not afraid to be vulnerable and to be open with people. And I think that's really important. I think that's what our people are looking for as well. They don't want to think that we're robots and we don't have emotion and nothing ever bothers us. I think that really helps build loyalty and trust.
Yeah, which is important. And I guess, Hannah, as well, because you had Gill and Hooper as a consultancy business where you used to also work with a lot of people in the property management businesses, as well as you're the president of the Real Estate Institute of the ACT. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Gill and Hooper is something that Grace and I are really passionate about. COVID kind of put a lot of the plans on hold because the core of what we offered to the industry was small group study tours. We're really excited to ramp that back up in 2022. And the reason is I think there's so much value in small group learning and to deep dive and immerse yourself with a small group of like-minded business people. And I found that not only as the host of those events, but also as much as, being a participant myself, just the real kind of nuggets of gold that you get and the quick wins. And I think when you're in business, it can feel quite lonely sometimes. And to provide a safe space where people can truly collaborate and share was hugely rewarding. So I'm really pleased to get that back off. And I think with the Real Estate Institute in Canberra, there's so much change happening from a legislative viewpoint. And I think in the property management space, we need to be advocating for the right change. There's a huge issue around affordability and supply here, something I'm really passionate about. And so I just really want to essentially try to make a difference, to make our industry better, to make our community better. And that platform enables me to play a very small part in that.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you did, it was a street MBA, wasn't it? It was called,
with a lead agent.
Yeah, with the lead agent. It's the alliances that you make and the relationships and the bonds and friendships and mentoring that come out of that group as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it was really interesting right through COVID. Lots of people from those groups and different tours were connecting and collaborating and checking in with each other. And that was really nice. That was really rewarding and really helpful for me as well. I was able to call people from right across Australia and be like, what do you think of this? Or how are you finding this? Which was really powerful.
Yeah, that's really good. And so I think a common thread that runs, particularly in our industry of people that are successful, is that they have reached out, they have got that mentoring and coaching and have had people that, I guess, shine the light and that you learn from, and in place you're doing that now to other people as well, which is really important. What do you think, Hannah, some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned in your 13 years?
Gosh, in property management, every day is a lesson. There's always things to learn. I think probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, both as a property manager and a BD, but also as a leader, is that there's no problem that can't be solved. And I think at times, when you're right in the thick of it, it can be very overwhelming and really stressful to think, gosh, how do we get out of this? Like, people make mistakes. We're dealing with scale and inevitably things go wrong. And certainly in my career, I've made some doozies over the years. Yeah, absolutely. And I just think knowing that there is always a solution, and getting a few people together and problem solving together. A problem halved is a problem shared. A problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah,
and I think that's really valuable. That's probably a lesson that I learned through real estate, but I've been able to apply in all parts of my life. And I think also, continuing to learn has been really powerful. I was not a very good school student as such, but this industry has given me no shortage of opportunity to continue to learn and grow and challenge myself. And I think that's really important because it keeps us growing as people.
It's amazing what that you want to learn when it's something that you're passionate about and that you're really committed to.
Yeah, agreed.
If we look at people entering our industry, and they have many choices of whether it might be sales, property management, administration. There's lots and lots of choices. What would be, do you think, the most important qualities for somebody who is considering a property management career? The qualities, but I guess the character of the person that's important, that is going to sustain them and help them within that in that role.
I mean, we're like the masters of all trades in property management, right? And in the industry, we're juggling so many different things. We need to be organised. We need to be, good communicators. We need to be able to write a good email and diffuse a, difficult conversation and negotiate. So there's so many skills that we actually have to carry to be good at what we do and to be good operators. But I think if I had to pick one strength, I think this is very much coming to the forefront of our industry as well, but I think it's being authentic. I think people want to work with people that they like and they trust. And the only way to be truly trusted and truly liked is to be your true self. Because I think if you're not, or if you're trying to emulate someone else, or, you might admire a certain agent or a certain practitioner and go, I want to be like that person, that's fine, as long as you do it authentically.
That's right. You look at the qualities that they have and how could you make them yours, right?
Yes.
In being unique as you are.
Yes.
So the other thing that we find in the real estate industry can be really stressful. And we have a lot of people that one of the biggest challenges that they face is they cannot disconnect, right? So they take everything home in their head, and that they end up getting into a very stressful situation with the inability to actually shut down. What would be your advice there? Or tell us what you do in terms of being able to have that disconnect.
Look, I still haven't mastered that. Sometimes, it's the stress and the workload and the pressure does get the better of me as well. But I think it's coming back to doing the job for the right reasons. So that real alignment and your why is very clear. And then I think having some strategies in place to help you manage. And it's best to practice and implement those strategies before you're stressed, because then they're natural and they're second nature when the stress rises. So I think for me, that's my to-do list at the end of every day, so I can get it out of my head and be done with the day. Yeah. If something does pop into my mind at night, it's just jotting it down in my phone. So again, it's out of my head. I'm not, and if I need to, when I get home, get the kids to bed, it's spending an hour or two on email so I can clear the deck, so I know that tomorrow I can just start the day focused. I try obviously not to do that, because I really try to have that balance, but as a business, I know that's inevitable at times, and you have to do what you need to do to get the job done. And I also am a big believer in meditation. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Even if it's for 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Have that ability. It's been really lovely having and living with my granddaughter, she's 3, and at 3, and you would know this yourself, at that age, they have just the most incredible imagination. So I always spend part of my day playing and pretending and just getting really immersed in her imagination and putting myself into the game with her. And it's really just made me, I guess, a more playful person. But it's taken me back in terms of bringing out a little bit of creativity as well, which it's been really great, actually.
And you need that space, don't you? You need that space away from technology or noise or work to find that creative space.
Yeah.
I find when you're churning through the workload, it's really hard to get into a space of creativity, but that's awesome. Yeah.
I know, it's really great. And I probably didn't do that enough with my kids so now I'm like really appreciating it with my granddaughter, that Nanny, come and play with me, let's play pretend, and you be the baby, or whatever, or the dinosaur, whatever. It's been a lot of fun. So my last question I always ask on every interview, well, almost anyway, Hannah Gill, tell us something that most people wouldn't know about you.
Oh, I really struggle to answer that, because I'm kind of an open book. I guess something that most people don't know about me, which is kind of a bit random, is before all those jobs I just described to you, when I actually finished school, I applied to uni and then realised I wasn't interested in 4 more years of study. And so I went up to Broome and I worked on a pearl boat for a year as a deckhand.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of my first real job after finishing school, and super random in the middle of nowhere. But I think the reason I share that is because it really taught me a lot. I mean, it taught me resilience. It taught me hard work. We were up at 4 o'clock every day. We'd finish at 4 o'clock every arvo. It taught me resilience, and it taught me to be independent, because I'd gone from being this like kid at school to being across the other side of the country with no land in sight for a month. Yeah, it was just a really cool experience. So that's probably something that people don't know about me. My background is being a deckhand.
Wow. And so what were you going to study at? What were you contemplating studying at university?
Can you hear me?
Yeah? Okay. Have I lost you?
Back. Sorry.
That's all right. What were you contemplating doing at university?
I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
So,
well, we're very glad, Hannah Gill, that our industry got you, because you add so much value. You are such an incredible mentor to so many in terms of levels of professionalism and what you bring to the table. Also, for someone so young to have developed a business, and I guess it's about like really anything that you want to do and that you're prepared to work hard for, you can make happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially in this industry. The opportunity is endless, and if you want it enough, you can make it happen.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Hannah. It's just been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you for a while today, and thank you for everything that you bring to our industry.
Well, right back at you, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. Thank you.